Hello and welcome back to Bookworm. You trust your thoughts. When something feels obvious, you assume it's true. But what if your brain is designed to make quick judgments that only feel accurate? In Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman explains the two systems guiding your mind. One fast, automatic, and emotional, the other slow, deliberate, and analytical. Most of your daily decisions come from the fast system. Stay with me, because once you understand how these systems shape your choices, you'll start questioning your certainty in a completely new way. Let's go deeper.
Have you ever made a snap judgment? I mean, a split-second decision that turned out to be totally wrong? Or maybe you've agonized over a choice for days, only to just go with your gut in the end. Well, today, we're going to dig into why our minds work in these really strange ways. And we're going to use Daniel Kahneman's incredible book, Thinking Fast and Slow, as our guide. Okay, so to really get a feel for how these two systems in our brain operate, let's just start with a quick test. I'm about to give you a short description of a guy. All you need to do is pay attention to your immediate first reaction, your gut feeling. So, you got an answer? Just hold on to whatever popped into your head first. Don't second guess it, just lock it in. If you're like most of us, the word librarian probably just jumped right out. I mean, that description fits our mental picture of a librarian so perfectly, it's almost hard to think of anything else, right? And here's the twist. Statistically speaking, it is way more likely that Steve is a farmer. But our brain, it just latches onto that compelling story, that perfect stereotype, and it completely ignores the cold, hard data. And that little mental glitch, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So, what in the world just happened inside your head? To figure that out, we're going to meet the two characters running the show in your mind. Then we'll see the sneaky ways your brain gets tricked. We'll find out why one of those characters is, well, super lazy. And finally, we'll learn how to actually think a little bit better. You know, Kahneman has this fantastic way of talking about our minds. He doesn't see it as one thing. He pictures it like a play, with two main characters. Each one has a really distinct personality. And he just calls them System 1 and System 2. So think of System 1 as the star of the show. It's the fast, intuitive, automatic part of your thinking. It's your gut reaction. And then you've got System 2. That's the thoughtful supporting character. It's slow, it's deliberate, and man, it takes real effort to get it on stage. System 1 is basically running the show almost all the time. It's the reason you instantly know the answer to 2 plus 2, or you can finish the phrase bread and butter, or you can sense hostility in someone's voice without even trying. It's totally effortless. But System 2, that's who you call in when the going gets tough. It's the part of your brain you have to deliberately wake up for tasks that need real focus. You know, like slogging through a tax form or trying to parallel park in a space that is way too small. So yeah, System 1 is our hero, but every hero has a flaw, right? Its amazing speed comes at a cost. See, to be that fast, it relies on mental shortcuts. And these shortcuts, they can lead to consistent, predictable mistakes, what experts call cognitive biases. One of System 1's absolute favorite tools is something Kahneman calls cognitive ease. You know that feeling, right? It's that comfortable, smooth state where everything just feels easy. When we're in that state, we let our guard down, we're more trusting, and we're way more likely to believe what we see and hear. And this slide just shows how simple it is to trick our brains into feeling that ease. Just seeing something over and over again, or reading text in a really clear font, or even just being in a good mood can create it. And when we feel it, our brain just automatically assumes what we're seeing is familiar, it's true, and it's good. And this leads to a really crucial and kind of scary point. Our brains are not good at telling the difference between what's familiar and what's actually true. This is the whole reason advertising works. If you hear a company's slogan enough times, your System 1 starts to nod along, not because it's true, but just because it feels comfortable. It feels familiar. All right, you ready for another quick mental test? Again, don't think too hard, just go with your gut. Is the letter K more likely to be the first letter of a word in English or the third letter? So most people will say the first letter. And why is that? Well, because it's just so much easier to think of words that start with K. You know, king, kitchen, kangaroo. Our brain automatically judges how common something is by how easily examples come to mind. And this mental shortcut has a name. It's called the availability heuristic. Our brain assumes that if we can think of examples easily, then that thing must be common. It's fast, it's efficient, but as we just saw with the letter K, it's definitely not always right. So, if our fast thinking system 1 is making all these predictable mistakes, you've got to wonder, why isn't our smart analytical system 2 jumping in to save the day? Well, it turns out our hero's sidekick is pretty lazy. Look, System 2 absolutely has the power to step in and overrule our gut instincts. It could have done the math and realized that Steve was almost certainly a farmer, but that takes work. And System 2 is kind of like a lazy manager who'd rather just stamp approved on whatever their assistant brings them. Now, this laziness is made even worse by one of System 1's most powerful biases, and Kahneman gives it this great acronym, WYSICI. It stands for What You See Is All There Is.
So YCATI basically means that System 1 is a brilliant storyteller. But, and this is a big but, it only works with the information it's given right then and there. With Steve, it got that personality description and immediately spun a coherent story about a librarian. It didn't pause to ask, hey, what am I missing? What are the actual statistics here? Nope, it just jumped to the easiest, most convenient conclusion.
So after hearing all this, you might be thinking your intuition is the enemy. But that's really not the point. The goal is just to understand when you can trust your gut and when you really need to slow down and think things through. So here's a basic game plan for making smarter decisions. First, you've got to learn to recognize the mental minefields, those high-stakes moments where your gut might lead you astray. Second, you have to literally force yourself to slow down. Don't just run with the first answer that pops into your head. And third, you have to actively wake up your lazy system too. Ask yourself the most important question of all, what information might I be missing? But here's the thing, it is incredibly hard to spot these biases in ourselves. And Kahneman's real hope was that by giving us this new language, by talking about System 1, System 2, and YCIT, we could get better at spotting these errors in each other. We can help each other make smarter choices. And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on, doesn't it? How many of our strongest, most cherished beliefs are actually based on solid evidence? And how many are just the most convenient, most coherent stories our automatic brain has spun for us? It's a powerful reminder to question not just what we think, but how we think.
If this book unsettled your confidence, that's intentional. Thinking fast and slow reveals how easily the mind falls into shortcuts, biases, and overconfidence without noticing. Awareness doesn't eliminate mistakes, but it creates space between impulse and action. That pause can change outcomes. If one bias surprised you or felt uncomfortably familiar, share it below. And if you value deeper psychological clarity like this, subscribe to Bookworm and join me for the next exploration of how your mind really works.